Apologies for the dramatic entrance. I was misinformed about where to go and when to come, but otherwise everything was fine. Though I was directed to a locked, closed garage and wondered what to do with that. I'm sure it's, I guess, a proper occasion for me to remember the first talk I gave in a church, which was about 1963. I was very different from this occasion. There wasn't any band. In fact, there weren't any people. To be precise, because accuracy is important, there were 4 people. The organizer was there. The minister was kind enough to come. One person came in off the streets, looked like a homeless person trying to warm up, and there was one guy there who looked kind of like Roger, except he looked as if he was going to try to kill me. And that was my first experience in a church.
Mention in this connection that there's only 2 countries in the world that I know of where the concept of anti-X, X being the name of the country, is taken seriously. One is Stalinist Russia, where anti-Sovietism was absolutely the worst crime. You know, the biggest charge against anybody is anti-Sovietism. The other is the United States, where you have respected books written by, scholars called anti-Americanism, which are respectfully reviewed in the press, and they talk about people who are undermining the American way. In a country that had even a minimal democratic tradition, say Italy, if somebody were to publish a book in Italy on anti-Italianism, people would just laugh, try to sell that in Milan or Rome and so on. They think it's a joke. Yeah, sure, we're all anti-Italian because we're sane, But in countries with a real totalitarian culture, like say Stalinist Russia or the United States, the notion anti-Americanism or anti-Sovietism is taken very seriously. And in fact, this goes right back.
Condoleezza Rice was asked a little while ago in a TV interview, how could we end the war in Iraq? And she said it's a very easy way to end the war. She said it's quite obvious. Stop the flow of arms to foreign fighters. Stop the flow of foreign fighters across the border. That'll end the war in Iraq. Well, if somebody was looking at this who hadn't been adequately brainwashed by a good Western education, they would collapse in ridicule. Yes, there are foreign fighters in Iraq and plenty of foreign arms in there, namely from the country that invaded Iraq. But they're not foreign, remember? They're indigenous, because we're indigenous everywhere. That follows from owning the world, going back to the nascent empire. Spread. So therefore, we're not foreign fighters there or anywhere else. We're indigenous, and it's the foreign fighters who have to be stopped. The Haitian rural economy is largely based on pigs, but USAID decided that their pigs were no good. They had to kill off all the pigs, 100% of them. That's a substantial basis for the peasant society, even culturally. They were a means of exchange and so on. And they introduced Iowa pigs, sophisticated pigs. To take care of an Iowa pig requires more money than a Haitian peasant can make in 10 years.
Okay.
So they were simply driven by Western policies, basically neoliberal policies. They were driven into something that they could grow to survive, same in Bolivia and elsewhere. And furthermore, they're taught, go to school in Harvard or wherever, you're taught that you're supposed to be a rational wealth maximizer, right? And I take any economics courses, that's what you're supposed to be. The peasants are told the same thing. You're supposed to be rational wealth maximizers, rational peasants it's called. That means you produce, it's the whole literature on this. I'm sure you know it better than I do if you're in development studies. You got to be a rational peasant. A rational peasant is a peasant who tries to maximize profit, and of course for export. because you don't want to produce for the local market, since that has to be saturated by highly subsidized U.S. agribusiness. So therefore, that's out. So you can't produce for the local market. You've got to be a rational peasant trying to maximize profit for export. What does that spell? You know? Yeah, it spells opium, coca, and so on. When they learn their lessons and they become rational peasants, they're rewarded, namely by helicopter gunships, fumigation, death squads, and so on. That's called development, I think it's called, or something like that. And yeah, so that's what they do. You think the planners don't know this? I mean, of course they know it. But over El Salvador, you had an indigenous guerrilla force, no support from outside as far as anybody knows. Their arms were mostly gotten from the Salvadoran army or purchased internationally, so they were using American arms, like they're using M16s. And so just a side remark. For the first time now, the guerrillas in El Salvador are apparently being aided by Nicaraguans. So Elliot Abrams can finally be happy. What's happening is that as the Contras broke for the border and went across, because the game was over, they figured, they began to sell their arms to corrupt Honduran army officials who were selling them off to the Salvadoran guerrillas. So for the first time, the Salvadoran guerrillas are beginning to show up with Soviet arms, AK-47s and so on and so forth. And the reason is that those are the arms that the CIA supplied to the Contras. So instead of having just M16s like they used to have, American arms they got from the Salvadoran army, they now got Soviet arms sent by the CIA to the Contras and now sold off to the Hondurans or selling them off to the Salvadoran guerrillas. So there is finally aid from Nicaragua to El Salvador, like they've been claiming all along. And so here's another side remarks. I'm sorry, but
hello, Professor Noam Chomsky. How are you today? I just wanted to ask. Right now, I'm studying linguistics, and I can't find an answer to my question. And I look in the books, so I figured I trust your expertise on grammar and language. So I was wondering, do you have any recommendations for me to be able to talk to women better?
What?
Anything that could help them talk to women better.
About what?
Anything that could help them talk to women better.
They could help what?
Help them talk to women.
Oh, help talk to women better? That's like a lot of the emails I get. You'd be surprised. I got one a couple of days ago. Actually, my wife used to save these, but I got one a couple of days ago from some guy, teenage kid or maybe 20s or something, I guess, saying, I got a problem. I'm an anarchist, and I don't want to get a job in the capitalist system, but my girlfriend says she's going to throw me out unless I get a job. So what should I do? I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't know. I got out of that business 70 years ago.
Thank you.